Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video on my 2-litre TFSI engine. Today we're going to be tackling everyone's favourite job, the thermostat. Let's get to it. Okay, let's jump straight into it. This is not a very nice job to do when it's on the car because there is not very much space. Obviously, we would normally have the inlet manifold here. We'd normally have the body of the car butted right up to here. We'd normally have the rad pack butted right up to the front of the alternator. So I'm hoping in this video I get to give you guys some better views to what you would possibly normally see, and at least when you come to do it yourself, you'll know exactly kind of what you need to be doing. First step, obviously you can see the thermostat in here. So this whole thing is the thermostat housing, and the thermostat's inside there. To get to there, we need to remove this alternator, and to remove the alternator, we need to remove the tensioner and the belt. So I'm going to get you set up on the tripod. We'll get this tensioner removed first of all. We'll get the belt off, get the alternator off, and then we'll see how much access we can get to these additional bolts and pipes and stuff that we need to take off to remove this thermostat. So let's get you set up and crack on. Okay, the first step, as I mentioned, is to release this belt so we can then tackle the tensioner. So with a 16mm spanner or something like that, we can move this tensioner forward, which you can see obviously releases the tension of the belt. And then we have something to poke through the middle. So whether that's like a little Allen key, whether it's a drill bit, whatever you've got, a pin or anything, you can just tension that back, put the pin in. Now there is no tension on that belt, so the belt can now just come off. With the belt now removed, you'll see the 3 bolts that we need to access. From within the car, you'll be able to see these 2 quite easily, but underneath, you'll see we have another 13mm here as well. So we're going to do these top 2 and this bottom one, and that whole tensioner assembly should then come off. Okay, so we'll attack these top 2 bolts first. Bolt number 1. Bolt number 2. And bolt number 3. See, the tensioner now is loose, which now gives us access to our 2, again 30mm, to release our alternator. Okay, now we've got these 2 13s on the alternator. Now you'll see at the back there's this kind of weird bushing fitting inside the alternator. I think they're going to be a pain later on, so what we're going to do is going to give them a little spray up, because they're going to want to move backwards and forwards within that housing. So the more we can do to kind of free them up, the better. You see the other one just down there. Number 1 and number 2. So let's crack these bolts off and see what happens. Okay, alternator bolt number 1. Alternator bolt number 2. Okay, so before we go too far, then a bit more about these bushings. So you can see as the bolt gets tighter, it kind of pulls the bush in that way. So you can see it's now a nice tight seal around there. So even though the bolt's totally loose, the alternator is still solid in here. So one of the tips that I read was before we take this out, we're just going to give it a little tap back this way, because we ideally want this bushing to move this way to give us a little bit more of a gap when we get the alternator in and out. So by threading the bolt back in a little bit, like so, and then giving the whole assembly a little tap, saw the bolt move. What you'll see, I don't know whether the camera picks it up or not, but there is now a slight gap between the housing and the bushing. Just give it another little love tap. Okay, same for the bottom one. Okay, so that should be just enough now. You can see where the camera's probably not going to pick this up very well, but there is definitely daylight now between that bushing and also the same with the one down the bottom, but you can just about make it out there. So hopefully now you can just take these bolts back out and you can see the alternator is now loose. And this should save us a lot of time down the line, trying to mess around in vices or whatever, trying to get the bushings back in. Obviously we threaded that in quite a way, so the threads on the bolts are absolutely fine. That's threaded in quite well. So that alternator is now loose. We will have some plugs and whatnot on the back, so let's have a look, see what we've got. So we've got this little quite fat lead off the back here under a little plastic cap, and then we've got one electrical connection there. There is also something that you shouldn't forget down the back here, just about make it out there, there's a little 8mm I think which holds the wire to the alternator, so don't forget to undo that before you pull the alternator away. Okay, so you can make out this little plastic cap here, so just with a flat base screwdriver behind the back of it, I'll just pop that off. Okay, that's fallen directly into the air conditioning compressor port, which is not ideal, but we'll retrieve that in a minute. And then there's this little clip on the top, which was fully broken, which is nice, and it's obviously been glued in the past. Which again, it's fairly lucky I got a totally spare engine over there, because that's actually ripped off of the alternator part. So we'll be stealing the alternator from the other engine before this all goes back together, which is a pain. Okay, let's whip that main line off the back there. As the alternator moves forward now, you can see that 8mm that I was talking about there. You can obviously tell that it holds a whole wiring harness to the back of the alternator. So yeah, don't forget to undo that. And there goes the alternator. We won't keep that anyway, right? And then we retrieve the cap. And then here's another close-up of that broken plug. So this bit inside it is actually the bit from the alternator. So I'll retrieve that out of there somehow. And then yeah, we'll swap the alternator over from the other engine, which we know is good anyway. So okay, on to the thermostat. Okay, welcome to the most uneventful unboxing of all time. This is my part number that I got for the thermostat. We went for Febby Bliston. That's just a name that I know of. Whether that's good or bad, who knows. And then here is the thermostat. So you can tell from here that we're working with 1, 2, 3 pipes, and then 2 fixings over here. Also, this pipe in the middle is like a press fit with a fixing in there. So bottom one's like one of those nice quick release that we had on the radiator and we had on the intercooler. Yeah, middle one is screw fixing, and this one I assume is just a Jubilee clip of some sort, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at on the car. Also, this box comes with a seal, which I assume is for that side. Okay, so looking at that same sort of orientation now on the engine, you can see we've got our 2 fixings, which I think are a 10mm. We've got that one in the middle. That's kind of got that little Torx, probably T27, but we'll confirm that in a sec. We've got the one on the top, which is the normal kind of push fit clip in, and the one at the bottom with the nice easy kind of pull out pin, and it should go down. Now, I think what I've seen is that when we follow this tube back, because it's one from the top that we're going to need to pull. I think we might end up undoing this little 10mm here to give us a bit more wiggle room for these pipes. The one at the bottom should be okay. The one at the top and the middle are all connected to this same kind of bracket. So let's start. I don't know, where should we start? Should we start with the easiest one at the bottom? Yeah, start with the easy one at the bottom and then we'll work our way up. Okay, so the bottom one should just be a case of prizing out this little circuit. Being careful of whatever that sensor is there. Some sort of coolant temp sensor, I assume. So once it's like that, it should be able to come off. Now again, doing this on the car, who knows where your best route is to get a good angle or to get a good pull on it, but there we go. For me, it's fairly simple because nothing's even attached at the other end. I guess that goes off to the bottom of the radiator or something. We've also got a sensor there, so I'm not going to pull it any further than that. Okay, moving on to that middle one, that is indeed a T27. You can just crack that off, buzz that out. Don't drop it in your aircon compressor. Okay, so like I said before, although that is now loose, it's solid because of this mount here. So we will whip that out. That looks like a 10mm. Okay, that is indeed a 10mm. So let's undo this. What has that done? Anything? Definitely loosened off that top one. Let's get that top one out of the way. Okay, with a trusty hose clamp pliers, we'll just wind that back. Yeah, how tight are you? Not very, excellent. Okay, so that one's off. I don't know what I'm missing, but that still feels very tight. Okay, so it is loose in the thermostat. It's just still held on over here somewhere. So let's try and figure that out, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so there's one more cheeky little torque bolt just behind there, which is holding that pipe on. So let's get that whipped out, and then it should be free. Okay, so to make things extra interesting, there's not a torque bolt behind here. This is one of those little horrible spline bit things. That's an M5. Okay, that pipe now looks like it should be loose. There you go. You can see there was an O-ring on there, which I haven't got a replacement for, which is not great, I don't think. The O-ring looks to be in okay shape, but I don't have a replacement, so it's going back as it is. But that's now all of the pipes undone and released. So we just have those two 10mm here and here, and then that should be the thermostat 3. Okay, so with all those pipes undone, with all those fixings undone, thermostat should now wiggle out. I'm guessing this has been replaced at some point in its life. Doesn't look like a genuine one to me. Motorrad. Maybe I'm wrong. Right, we'll let that dribble out for a bit, and then we will get the new thermostat set up ready to go. I think you can tell from the markings at the bottom of that port that this probably did have a leak at some point in its life. So I will try and just give that a little bit of a clean up before I put the new one in. I want this to seal as nicely as possible. Again, this definitely isn't a job I'd want to be doing on the car at any time soon. Okay, so with that clean, we can start prepping this thermostat to go on. We've got the O-ring, we've got the thermostat. We'll just gently get that into place. And then we'll just lubricate that with a bit of the overflowing coolant to make it fit nice and snug. Okay, as I say, just a little bit of coolant on your finger, run that around. Run that around the seal. Then we can start to wiggle this back into place. Just kind of wiggle it in to send the O-ring home. Get it lined up. And then initially just by hand, thread these 10 mils back in. And number 2. These just need to be snugged up. I'll get the torque settings for anyone that's interested, but I'll just use the old calibrated wrist for this. Yeah, it feels about right with my extensive knowledge of thermostat replacements. Okay, so as they say, refitting is the reverse of removal. So we'll just start putting these pipes back one by one, then we'll figure out where those have a little bolt on over here. Let me see how we get on. Okay, so I think the last one I took off was the middle one, right? So let's seat that nicely in there. That had this nice coarse threaded T27. Again, this is going into plastic, so no crazy tightness. Just nip it in like that. Okay, so now we can move this top hose back on. Ouch. And then lastly, there was our little 10 mil that lived under there. So hold this on. Okay, that third pipe at the bottom there, you can see I've still got the clip out, so it should just be a case of really kind of wiggling it on. So look, it only goes one way. And once it's pushed all the way in, once it's then pushed all the way in, you can then push that clip in, give it a little pull, make sure it's all good. And yeah, there we go. Okay, and that is our thermostat replaced. Two 10 mils, 3 pipes, and all the mounting hardware back on over there. Okay guys, that's going to do us for today. I hope you found that useful. If you do, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I say, it really does help. In summary, for me, that was a fairly easy job because the engine was out of the car. I think if you're watching this and you're going to attempt this in the car, good luck. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what bolts and stuff you're looking for. I'm sorry I couldn't help you with kind of the access routes that you would take for some of those bolts. But yeah, good luck for that. And yeah, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.